Rise with confidence. Unlock your full potential. Written and published by Fearless Audiobook. Introduction. Every extraordinary achievement begins with one invisible decision, the decision to believe in yourself. Yet for millions of people, confidence feels just out of reach. They hesitate before speaking, second-guess their choices, hide their talents, and watch opportunities pass by, not because they lack ability, but because they doubt their own worth. The greatest obstacle you'll ever face is rarely the world around you. More often, it's the quiet voice within that says, "You're not good enough, you'll probably fail, or someone else can do it better." Left unchecked, that voice slowly shapes your choices, your habits, and eventually the life you settle for. But here's the truth, that voice is not your destiny. It is simply a story you've repeated long enough to believe. Throughout this audiobook, you'll discover that confidence isn't something reserved for the naturally gifted, the outgoing, or the fortunate. It's built through healing, courageous action, disciplined habits, resilient thinking, and a willingness to grow through discomfort. Every challenge you face becomes another opportunity to strengthen your character and unlock abilities you may have never realized you possessed. By the end of this journey, you'll understand that confidence isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming the truest version of yourself, the person who acts despite fear, rises after failure, and refuses to let self-doubt define the future. Let's begin the journey toward unlocking your full potential. Chapter 1. You can't silence the voice you refuse to hear. There is a conversation happening inside your mind every single day. It begins the moment you wake up and continues long after the world has gone quiet. Sometimes it's encouraging, reminding you of what you're capable of. But more often than we'd like to admit, it sounds different. It whispers that you're not ready, not talented enough, not attractive enough, not intelligent enough, or not worthy enough. That voice is rarely loud. It doesn't shout. Instead, it quietly influences your decisions until you begin to mistake it for the truth. Think about the opportunities you've passed up. Perhaps you wanted to apply for a better job, but convinced yourself someone else was more qualified. Maybe you stayed silent during an important meeting because you feared saying the wrong thing. Perhaps you've delayed starting a business, writing a book, or pursuing a dream because you believed you needed more experience first. In each of those moments, the greatest obstacle wasn't the situation itself. It was the story playing inside your mind. The difficult part is that this inner critic often sounds like reason. It disguises itself as caution, preparation, or realism. It tells you it's protecting you from disappointment when, in reality, it's protecting you from growth. It prefers the comfort of familiar limitations over the uncertainty of possibility. Most people spend years trying to silence this voice by chasing external success. They believe that once they earn more money, receive recognition, or achieve a major goal, confidence will finally arrive. But confidence built solely on external achievements is fragile. One failure, one rejection, or one setback can make it disappear. Real confidence begins somewhere much deeper. It begins with awareness. You cannot change a thought you never notice. You cannot challenge a belief you assume is true. Before you can become confident, you must first become curious about the conversation happening inside your own mind. Start paying attention to the words you repeat to yourself. When something goes wrong, what is your immediate reaction? Do you tell yourself you're a failure? Do you assume you'll never improve? Do you expect rejection before you've even tried? Those thoughts are not facts, they are habits, and habits can be changed. Imagine carrying a pair of glasses you've worn since childhood. Over the years, the lenses become scratched and cloudy. But because you've worn them for so long, you assume the blurry view is simply how the world looks. One day, someone hands you a new pair of glasses. Suddenly everything appears sharper, brighter, and more beautiful than you ever imagined. Your thoughts work in much the same way. Many of us see ourselves through old emotional lenses shaped by criticism, failure, rejection, or comparison. Those experiences may have happened years ago, but their influence continues because we've never questioned the conclusions we drew from them. Perhaps someone once told you that you weren't capable. Perhaps you made a mistake that embarrassed you. Perhaps you compared yourself to someone who seemed more successful and quietly decided you would never measure up. Those moments become seeds. If left unexamined, they grow into beliefs, and beliefs eventually become identity. But here's the encouraging truth. The voice inside your head may explain your past, yet it does not have to determine your future. Every confident person you've ever admired has faced moments of fear and self-doubt. The difference is not that they never heard the inner critic. The difference is that they learned to question it instead of obeying it. The next time your mind tells you, "I can't," pause for a moment. Ask yourself, is this the truth, or is this an old fear speaking? That single question creates space between who you are and what your fear wants you to believe. Awareness is where transformation begins. You don't have to win every battle with your inner critic today. You simply need to stop allowing it to speak without being challenged. The moment you begin listening with awareness instead of obedience, you reclaim the power that self-doubt has quietly stolen. Confidence doesn't begin when the negative voice disappears. It begins the moment you recognize that the voice is only one part of you, not the whole of who you are. And once you understand that, you take the first and most important step toward unlocking the confident, courageous person who has been within you all along. Chapter 2. Healing begins. The moment you stop blaming yourself. Every person carries an invisible backpack. From the outside, no one can see it. Yet inside it are memories, disappointments, painful words, broken promises, failures, and moments that quietly shaped how we see ourselves. As the years pass, that backpack grows heavier. Many people don't even realize they're carrying it because they've worn it for so long. The weight isn't created by what happened. It's created by the meaning we attach to what happened. One mistake becomes, "I'm a failure." One rejection becomes, "I'm not good enough." One betrayal becomes, "I can't trust anyone." Slowly, isolated events transform into lifelong beliefs. Without noticing it, we begin blaming ourselves not only for our past, but also for every opportunity we fail to pursue in the future. Confidence struggles to grow in soil filled with self-blame. Imagine a student who studies hard for an important exam but fails. At first they're disappointed, but disappointment is temporary. The real damage begins when they tell themselves, "I'm just not smart enough." That single sentence follows them for years. They avoid difficult subjects, hesitate to apply for competitive opportunities, and settle for less than they're capable of, not because of one failed exam, but because they allowed one moment to define their identity. Then one day, they make a different choice. Instead of saying, "I failed because I'm incapable," they say, "I failed because I wasn't prepared in the right way, and I can improve." Nothing about the past changes, yet everything about the future does. The exam remains the same, but the meaning changes. That shift marks the beginning of healing. The same principle applies to every emotional wound. Perhaps someone criticized you repeatedly while you were growing up. Maybe you were compared to siblings, classmates, or co-worker. Maybe you trusted someone who let you down. Perhaps you've made choices you deeply regret. Those experiences matter. They leave marks on the heart. Healing doesn't require pretending they never happened. It requires refusing to let them become permanent definitions of who you are. Too often, we confuse guilt with growth. We believe that if we continue punishing ourselves, we'll somehow become better people. But constant self-condemnation rarely produces wisdom. More often, it produces fear. It convinces us that we must be perfect before we deserve another chance. Life doesn't work that way. Growth belongs to those who are willing to learn, not those who insist on endlessly replaying yesterday's mistakes. Think about how you would respond if a close friend came to you after making a mistake. Would you tell them they were worthless? Would you insist they never try again? Probably not. You would remind them that one failure doesn't define an entire life. You would encourage them to learn from the experience and move forward. Yet many of us speak to ourselves with a level of cruelty we would never direct toward another person. Healing begins when you become your own ally instead of your own enemy. This doesn't mean avoiding responsibility. If you've hurt someone, apologize. If you've made poor decisions, learn from them. If you've fallen short of your own expectations, acknowledge it honestly. Responsibility is healthy because it leads to change. Self-blame is different because it convinces you that change is impossible. There is an enormous difference between saying, "I made a mistake," and saying, "I am a mistake." One opens the door to growth, the other locks it shut. Forgiveness is often misunderstood. Many people believe forgiving themselves means excusing bad decisions or lowering their standards. In reality, self-forgiveness means refusing to carry yesterday's failures into tomorrow's possibilities. It means accepting that your past may explain some of your struggles, but it does not have the authority to decide your future. Imagine planting a tree. You don't dig it up every morning to check whether it's growing. You water it, care for it, and trust the process. Healing works the same way. It rarely happens all at once. It happens through small, consistent choices to replace self-judgment with self-compassion, regret with wisdom, and fear with hope. As you continue this journey, remember one powerful truth. The person you are becoming deserves freedom from the mistakes of the person you once were. The past can teach you. It can strengthen you. It can humble you. But it should never imprison you. The moment you stop blaming yourself is the moment you begin creating space for confidence to grow. Healing isn't forgetting your story. It's finally believing that your story doesn't end with your pain. It begins with your decision to rise beyond it. Chapter 3. Confidence follows action, not the other way around. Have you ever caught yourself saying, "I'll do it when I feel more confident"? It sounds reasonable. In fact, most people believe confidence comes first. They imagine that one day they'll wake up feeling fearless, certain, and ready to chase every dream they've been postponing. But that day rarely comes. Confidence doesn't arrive before action. It arrives because of action. Imagine standing at the edge of a cold lake on a summer morning. You tell yourself you'll jump in once the water feels warmer. So you wait. 5 minutes become 10. 10 become 30. The water doesn't change. The only thing growing is your hesitation. Eventually, you realize the only way to adjust to the cold is to step into it. Life works the same way. Fear has an incredible ability to convince us that waiting is a strategy. It whispers that we need one more course, one more book, one more year of experience, or one more sign before taking the next step. But beneath all those excuses lies a single emotion: fear of failure. The irony is that waiting doesn't eliminate fear. It strengthens it. Every day you delay making that phone call, applying for that opportunity, starting that project, or speaking your mind, your brain gathers more evidence that the task must be dangerous. The longer you wait, the larger the challenge appears. Now imagine a young professional terrified of public speaking. Every time a presentation is announced, they find an excuse to avoid it. They believe they're protecting themselves from embarrassment, but in reality, they're reinforcing the belief that they are incapable. One day, they decide to do something different. Instead of delivering a 30-minute presentation, they volunteer to speak for just 1 minute during a small team meeting. Their voice shakes, their hands feel unsteady. It isn't perfect, but something important happens. They survive. The next week, they speak again. Then again. Gradually the fear begins to lose its grip. Months later, they confidently address large audiences, not because confidence magically appeared overnight, but because each small action quietly rewrote what they believed was possible. That's how confidence is built, not through wishing, not through waiting, through doing. You don't have to take giant leaps. In fact, the smallest steps often create the biggest transformations. A single conversation can lead to a new friendship. One job application can change your career. One workout can become a healthier lifestyle. One page written today can become an entire book tomorrow. Progress has a remarkable way of creating momentum. Think of confidence like a muscle. You cannot strengthen it by reading about exercise alone. You build it by using it repeatedly. At first, the effort feels uncomfortable. You may stumble, make mistakes, or doubt yourself. That's not proof you're failing, it's proof you're growing. Perfection is another trap that keeps people standing still. Too many dreams remain unfinished because people believe they must begin flawlessly. But every expert was once a beginner. Every accomplished person has a history of awkward first attempts, embarrassing mistakes, and difficult lessons. The difference is simple. They didn't let imperfection stop them. Instead of asking yourself, "Am I ready?" ask a different question. What's the smallest action I can take today? That single question removes the pressure of perfection and replaces it with progress. Action creates experience. Experience creates competence. Competence creates confidence. It's a cycle that strengthens with every courageous decision you make. As you move forward, remember that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is choosing to act while fear is still present. The butterflies in your stomach may never completely disappear, but they no longer have to determine your direction. Every confident person you admire has stood exactly where you are now, uncertain, nervous, and wondering if they were capable. They became different, not because fear left them, but because they stopped allowing fear to make their decisions. Today, choose one action you've been postponing. Make the call, send the application, share your idea. Start the project. Take the first step, however small it may seem. Because confidence is never waiting for you at the starting line. It's waiting for you on the other side of action. Chapter 4. Your future is written by the story you believe. Every life is shaped by a story, not the story others tell about you, but the one you quietly repeat to yourself every day. Long before your actions become habits, your habits become character, or your character shapes your future, there is a story running through your mind. It answers questions you may never consciously ask. Who am I? What am I capable of? What do I deserve? The answers you believe become the blueprint for the life you build. The remarkable thing is that most of these stories weren't written by you. Some were handed to you by childhood experiences. Others came from teachers, parents, friends, or strangers whose words stayed with you long after they had forgotten them. A single criticism became an identity. One disappointment became a lifelong expectation. Before long, you weren't simply experiencing failure. You believed you were a failure. Stories are powerful because the mind looks for evidence to support what it already believes. If you tell yourself, "I'm always unlucky," every setback becomes proof. If you believe, "I'm not a confident person," every awkward conversation reinforces that belief. Over time, your mind begins filtering out evidence that contradicts your story while magnifying everything that confirms it. Imagine someone who has convinced themselves they're incapable of success. When they receive praise, they dismiss it as luck. When they achieve something meaningful, they say it wasn't a big deal. Yet when they make a small mistake, they treat it as undeniable proof that they were right all along. Their reality isn't controlled by circumstances. It's controlled by the story they've chosen to believe. Now imagine a different approach. A person who has faced disappointment begins telling themselves a new story. Instead of saying, "I'm always unlucky," they choose, "I'm learning, improving, and creating opportunities." At first, the words feel unfamiliar. They don't magically erase years of doubt. But something begins to change. They start noticing possibilities they once ignored. They volunteer for new challenges. They recover more quickly from setbacks because failure no longer defines who they are. Their circumstances don't improve overnight, but their perspective does, and that new perspective changes their decisions. Those decisions gradually change their life. That's the quiet power of a new story. Of course, changing your story doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect. It isn't about repeating empty affirmations while ignoring reality. Real confidence is built on honest truth. Instead of saying, "I'm the best at everything," you might say, "I may not know everything yet, but I'm capable of learning." Instead of believing, "I'll never overcome this," remind yourself, "I've survived difficult seasons before, and I can grow through this one too." These aren't fantasies. They're possibilities grounded in growth. Think about the author of a novel. If the main character faces a setback halfway through the story, the book doesn't end there. That challenge becomes part of the character's development. The struggle adds depth, wisdom, and resilience. Without obstacles, there would be no meaningful transformation. Your life follows the same pattern. Too many people believe they're trapped in the first few chapters of their story. They assume yesterday's failures have already written tomorrow's ending. But every new day places a blank page in front of you. While you can't erase previous chapters, you always have the power to decide what happens next. The story you tell yourself should inspire responsibility, not excuses. Say, I can improve. Say, this setback is teaching me something valuable. Say, I haven't reached my goal yet, but I'm moving toward it. Notice the power of that small word. Yet. It transforms limitation into possibility. It reminds you that today's reality isn't your final destination. As you continue this journey, pay close attention to the words you use when speaking to yourself. Listen for the phrases that begin with I always or I never. Those statements often reveal the stories that have quietly shaped your identity. Then ask yourself one simple question. Is this story helping me become the person I want to be? If the answer is no, give yourself permission to write a better one. Your past may have provided the opening chapters, but it does not control the ending. Every courageous choice, every lesson learned, and every challenge overcome becomes another sentence in the story of who you are becoming. Remember, confidence is not built by pretending to be someone you're not. It grows when you choose to believe a story that reflects your potential instead of your fears. Because in the end, your future is not determined by what has happened to you. It is shaped by the story you choose to believe and the actions you take because of it. Chapter 5. Every promise you keep to yourself builds trust. Imagine meeting someone who constantly breaks their promises. They tell you they'll arrive at 9, but they show up at 10. They promise to help, yet they never do. They say they'll call tomorrow, but days pass without a word. Over time, your trust in that person begins to disappear, not because of one broken promise, but because of a pattern. Now consider a more difficult question. How many promises have you broken to yourself? I'll start exercising on Monday. Tomorrow I'll finally begin writing that book. This is the last time I'll procrastinate. I'll wake up early and take control of my day. Perhaps you've made these promises dozens of times. Each one was sincere when you made it, but when those promises go unfulfilled, something invisible begins to happen. You don't just lose momentum, you begin to lose trust in yourself. Confidence is built on self-trust, and self-trust is built one promise at a time. Many people believe confidence comes from praise, success, or recognition. Those things can certainly make us feel good, but they don't create lasting confidence. Real confidence grows when your actions consistently match your words. Every time you keep a commitment to yourself, no matter how small, you quietly reinforce the belief that you are dependable. Think of confidence as a house. Motivation is the paint on the walls. It looks beautiful, but it fades quickly. Discipline is the foundation. Without it, even the most inspiring dreams eventually collapse. The problem with relying on motivation is that motivation is emotional. Some mornings you'll wake up excited and energized. Other mornings you'll feel tired, discouraged, or distracted. If your progress depends entirely on how you feel, your results will always be inconsistent. Discipline changes the equation. Discipline says, I'll do what matters, even when I don't feel like it. That simple decision separates wishful thinking from lasting transformation. Imagine two people who both want to become healthier. The first exercises only when they feel motivated. Some weeks they work out 5 days. Other weeks they skip every session because life becomes busy. The second person makes a smaller commitment. They promise themselves they will move their body for just 20 minutes each day, regardless of mood. Some workouts are excellent, others are average, but they keep showing up. Months later, who has more confidence? Usually it's not the person with the greatest talent or enthusiasm. It's the person who learned to trust themselves through consistency. Small victories matter more than dramatic beginnings. Many people make the mistake of trying to change their entire life overnight. They create enormous goals, expecting instant transformation. Then, when they inevitably struggle, they conclude they lack discipline. The truth is often much simpler. The goal wasn't the problem, the expectation was. Confidence grows through repeated evidence. Every completed task becomes proof that you're capable of following through. Every healthy habit strengthens your identity. Every promise kept whispers a powerful message. I can rely on myself. Imagine placing one brick every single day. A single brick seems insignificant. You might even wonder whether it's making any difference at all. But after weeks and months of patient effort, those bricks become walls. Eventually, they become a home. Success works the same way. Your daily choices are the bricks. Reading 10 pages instead of scrolling endlessly through your phone. Saving a small amount of money instead of spending impulsively. Practicing a skill for 30 minutes instead of waiting for inspiration. Getting out of bed when the alarm rings instead of pressing snooze again. None of these actions seem life-changing on their own, yet together they quietly build a person who keeps their word, and that changes everything. It's also important to remember that discipline isn't about being perfect. There will be days when you fall short. You'll miss a workout, delay a project, or make a poor decision. Don't let one mistake become permission to abandon your progress altogether. One missed day is an event. Giving up is a pattern. Treat setbacks as temporary interruptions, not permanent failures. When you stumble, return to your commitment as quickly as possible. Confidence doesn't come from never making mistakes. It comes from refusing to let mistakes define your future. As you continue this journey, choose one promise you can realistically keep every day. Make it small enough that excuses lose their power, but meaningful enough to strengthen your character. Then honor that promise, especially on the days when you don't feel like it, because every promise you keep is another deposit into the bank of self-trust. Over time, those deposits grow into something far more valuable than temporary motivation. They become quiet confidence, the kind that doesn't depend on applause, luck, or perfect circumstances. Remember, people trust those who consistently keep their word. The same principle applies to the relationship you have with yourself. When your actions begin matching your intentions, you no longer have to convince yourself that you're capable. You know you are, and that unwavering self-trust becomes one of the strongest foundations upon which lasting confidence is built. Chapter 6. Discomfort is the price of becoming stronger. If you planted a seed and expected it to become a towering tree without ever facing wind, rain, or changing seasons, you would be asking nature to do the impossible. Every strong tree develops deep roots because it has endured storms. In much the same way, every confident person develops inner strength by facing challenges they once wished to avoid. Growth has never been comfortable, yet comfort has become one of the greatest temptations of modern life. We naturally choose the familiar over the uncertain, the easy over the difficult, and the safe over the risky. There's nothing wrong with enjoying comfort, but problems begin when comfort becomes a permanent destination instead of a temporary resting place. The comfort zone feels peaceful, but it comes with a hidden cost. Inside it, your fears remain unchallenged. Your abilities stay underdeveloped. Your dreams remain ideas rather than realities. While everything feels safe, very little changes. Days become weeks, weeks become years. And one day you realize you've protected yourself from failure, but you've also protected yourself from growth. Confidence cannot grow where nothing is tested. Imagine learning to swim by reading books about swimming. You could memorize every technique, understand every stroke, and watch countless videos. But until you step into the water, your knowledge remains incomplete. The first moments may feel uncomfortable. The water may seem colder than expected. You may struggle to coordinate your movements, yet with every attempt, your body learns something new. What once felt impossible gradually becomes natural. Life follows the same pattern. Every meaningful goal requires stepping into unfamiliar waters. Perhaps it's applying for a promotion that feels beyond your qualifications. Maybe it's starting a business with no guarantee of success. It could be having a difficult conversation you've avoided for months, or finally pursuing a passion you've kept hidden because you feared criticism. The first step is rarely easy, but it is always necessary. Consider the story of a young entrepreneur who dreamed of owning a successful business. Full of excitement, they launched their first company, convinced everything would work out. Instead, customers never arrived, bills piled up, and the business eventually failed. It would have been easy to conclude, "I'm not meant for this." Many people would have walked away, allowing one disappointment to define the rest of their lives. Instead, they asked a different question: what can this failure teach me? They studied their mistakes, improved their skills, listened to feedback and tried again. Their second attempt wasn't perfect either, but it was better. Each setback became a lesson instead of a verdict. Years later, they built a thriving business, not because they avoided failure, but because they allowed failure to educate rather than discourage them. That is the difference between discomfort that weakens you and discomfort that strengthens you. One is resisted, the other is embraced. Too often, we see failure as evidence that we've chosen the wrong path. In reality, failure is often evidence that we're learning something worth knowing. Think back to when you first learned to ride a bicycle. You probably didn't balance perfectly on your first attempt. You may have fallen several times. But no one expected perfection, because everyone understood that falling was part of learning. Somewhere along the way, many adults forget this truth. We begin expecting ourselves to succeed immediately. When we don't, we assume we're incapable rather than inexperienced. But mastery has always been built through repetition, correction, and persistence. Discomfort isn't your enemy, it's your teacher. Every difficult conversation teaches communication. Every rejection teaches resilience. Every mistake teaches wisdom. Every challenge reveals strengths you didn't know you possessed. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" begin asking, "What is this experience preparing me for?" That single question transforms obstacles into opportunities for growth. It's also important to remember that courage doesn't eliminate discomfort. Even highly successful people experience uncertainty before making important decisions. The difference is that they no longer expect confidence to appear before they act. They understand that confidence is created by repeatedly doing difficult things until those things no longer feel impossible. Each time you face discomfort instead of avoiding it, you send yourself a powerful message: "I am stronger than my fear." That message becomes part of your identity. Over time, your comfort zone expands. Challenges that once terrified you become ordinary. New opportunities appear because you're no longer limited by yesterday's fears. You don't become fearless, you become resilient. Resilience isn't about avoiding life's storms, it's about learning that you can survive them. As you continue your journey, choose one area of your life where comfort has been quietly holding you back. It doesn't have to be a dramatic leap. Perhaps it's introducing yourself to someone new, learning a skill you've postponed, or saying yes to an opportunity that makes your heart race. Take that step anyway. Remember, muscles grow by resisting weight. Diamonds are formed under pressure. Trees become stronger by standing through storms. Your character develops in exactly the same way. The life you want is rarely found inside the boundaries of what feels comfortable today. It waits just beyond them, where uncertainty becomes courage, challenges become wisdom, and discomfort becomes the price you willingly pay for becoming the strongest version of yourself. Chapter 7. Comparison steals the life only you can live. Imagine standing in a beautiful garden filled with roses, sunflowers, lilies, oak trees, and bamboo. Each plant is unique. The rose doesn't envy the sunflower because it blooms differently. The oak doesn't compete with the bamboo because each grows according to its own design. Nature never compares. It simply grows. Human beings, however, often spend their lives measuring themselves against everyone else. From an early age, we're taught to compare. We compare grades in school, salaries at work, appearances on social media, achievements among friends, and lifestyles with strangers we've never even met. Somewhere along the way, comparison becomes so automatic that we stop noticing how much joy it quietly steals from our lives. The problem with comparison is that it changes your focus. Instead of asking, "Am I becoming a better version of myself?" you begin asking, "Am I better than someone else?" Those are two completely different questions, and only one leads to lasting confidence. Comparison creates an endless race with no finish line. The moment you achieve something meaningful, you discover someone who appears to have achieved more. You buy your dream home, only to notice a bigger one. You earn a promotion, only to hear about someone climbing even higher. You become healthier, only to compare yourself to someone with a more athletic body. No matter how much progress you make, comparison convinces you it isn't enough. Imagine carrying a backpack filled with stones while hiking up a mountain. Every time you see another hiker moving faster than you add another stone to your bag. Before long, the journey becomes exhausting, not because the mountain is impossible to climb, but because you've chosen to carry unnecessary weight. Comparison works exactly like those stones. Every comparison adds another burden to your mind. Eventually, you become so focused on someone else's path that you lose sight of your own. Social media has amplified this challenge. Every day, we're presented with carefully edited highlights of other people's lives. We see promotions without witnessing years of sacrifice. We admire confidence without seeing countless moments of doubt. We celebrate success without understanding the failures that came first. It's like judging your entire movie based on someone else's favorite scene. That's never a fair comparison. Consider two friends who graduate from university together. One quickly builds a successful business, while the other struggles to find direction. The second friend begins believing they've fallen behind in life. They constantly compare themselves to the achievements of their former classmate, feeling discouraged with every passing month. But life has a remarkable way of unfolding differently for each person. Several years later, the second friend discovers a career they're deeply passionate about. Their journey took longer, but it also gave them valuable experiences, resilience and wisdom they couldn't have gained any other way. Had they continued measuring their life against someone else's timeline, they might never have recognized the unique opportunities waiting for them. Your journey was never meant to look exactly like anyone else's. Each person begins with different circumstances, talents, challenges, relationships and opportunities. Expecting identical outcomes ignores the uniqueness of every human story. Real confidence grows when you stop asking, "Why am I not where they are?" and start asking, "Am I moving closer to the person I want to become?" That simple shift changes everything. Instead of competing with others, compete with yesterday's version of yourself. Did you learn something new today? Did you show more courage than last week? Did you respond to a challenge with greater patience? Did you keep a promise you once would have broken? These are the comparisons that truly matter, because they measure growth rather than status. It's also worth remembering that everyone is fighting battles you cannot see. The person who seems confident may secretly struggle with anxiety. The person who appears financially successful may carry overwhelming stress. The person whose life looks perfect online may feel lonely behind closed doors. Comparison is dangerous because it compares your private struggles with someone else's public victories. You deserve better than that. Gratitude is one of the most powerful antidotes to comparison. When you regularly acknowledge what is already good in your life, your attention naturally shifts from scarcity to abundance. You begin appreciating your own progress instead of constantly measuring it against someone else's accomplishments. This doesn't mean abandoning ambition. It means pursuing excellence without allowing envy to poison the journey. Celebrate the success of others. Learn from people who inspire you. Allow their achievements to remind you of what's possible rather than convincing you of what's lacking. The world doesn't need another copy of someone else. It needs the unique gifts, experiences, and perspective that only you can offer. As you continue building confidence, remember that your greatest competition has never been the people around you. It's the version of yourself that settles for less than your potential. Become a little wiser than yesterday, a little kinder, a little braver, a little more disciplined. Those small improvements compound over time into extraordinary transformation. One day, you'll look back and realize that the life you've built wasn't created by trying to outshine everyone else. It was created by faithfully becoming the person you were designed to be. Comparison steals peace, because it convinces you that your worth depends on someone else's progress. Confidence restores peace, because it reminds you that your value has never depended on winning someone else's race. Your path is different, your timing is different, your purpose is different. Honor your journey with patience, celebrate your progress with gratitude, and trust that every step you take is preparing you for a future that belongs uniquely to you. Because the life you were meant to live can only be discovered when you stop comparing your story to everyone else's and begin fully embracing your own. Chapter 8. True confidence is quiet, steady, and authentic. When many people picture confidence, they imagine someone who commands every room they enter. They think of loud voices, bold personalities, constant certainty, and an endless desire to be noticed. But that image often confuses confidence with attention. True confidence doesn't need an audience. It doesn't compete to be the loudest voice in the room or seek validation from every person it meets. Genuine confidence is quiet. It is calm under pressure, secure in its identity, and comfortable without constant approval. It speaks with purpose, listens with respect, and acts according to its values rather than the expectations of others. Think about the ocean. On the surface, waves crash, winds blow, and storms create chaos. But beneath the surface lies remarkable calm and strength. True confidence resembles those deeper waters. Life may bring criticism, uncertainty, or unexpected challenges, yet a confident person remains anchored because their peace comes from within, not from changing circumstances. Many people spend years chasing approval without realizing it. They hesitate before expressing an opinion because they fear disagreement. They avoid pursuing certain dreams because they're worried about being judged. They constantly adjust their personality to fit the expectations of different groups, hoping that acceptance will finally make them feel worthy. The problem is that approval is unpredictable. You can please one person and disappoint another. You can receive praise today and criticism tomorrow. If your confidence depends on how others respond to you, your emotional state will rise and fall with every opinion you hear. Authentic confidence frees you from that cycle. Imagine a talented musician preparing to perform for the first time. Before stepping onto the stage, their heart races and their hands tremble. They know not everyone in the audience will love their performance. Some people may applaud enthusiastically. Others may remain silent. Instead of trying to control everyone's reaction, the musician focuses on one thing they can control, giving their best. When the performance ends, they appreciate the applause but don't become dependent on it. Likewise, they accept criticism without allowing it to destroy their belief in themselves. Their identity is rooted in continual growth, not public opinion. That is authentic confidence. It doesn't mean ignoring feedback. Constructive criticism can help us improve. But there's an important difference between learning from feedback and allowing it to define your worth. Confident people ask, "What can I learn from this?" Insecure people often ask, "What does this say about me?" The first question leads to growth. The second often leads to self-doubt. Body language also reflects inner confidence, but not in the way many people assume. Confidence isn't about trying to appear intimidating. It's about carrying yourself with openness and presence. Standing tall, maintaining comfortable eye contact, offering a genuine smile, and listening attentively communicates something powerful without saying a word. These small habits don't make you superior to anyone else. They simply demonstrate that you're comfortable being yourself. The same principle applies to communication. People with quiet confidence don't feel the need to dominate every conversation. They know the value of speaking clearly, honestly, and thoughtfully. They aren't afraid to say, "I don't know," because their self-worth isn't threatened by admitting they still have things to learn. In fact, humility is often one of the clearest signs of genuine confidence. Those who constantly seek to prove themselves usually feel uncertain inside. Those who truly trust themselves don't need to advertise their value. Their actions speak more loudly than their words ever could. Decision-making is another place where authentic confidence shines. Life presents countless choices, and no decision comes with absolute certainty. Waiting until every risk disappears often means waiting forever. Confident people gather information, consider their values, and then make thoughtful decisions without becoming trapped by endless overthinking. They understand that no one can predict every outcome. What they trust is their ability to adapt if circumstances change. That trust creates freedom. One of the greatest gifts of authentic confidence is emotional stability. Instead of being controlled by every compliment or criticism, every success or setback, confident people develop a deeper sense of identity. They celebrate victories with gratitude and face disappointments with resilience because they understand that neither success nor failure permanently defines who they are. This inner stability also strengthens relationships. People are naturally drawn to those who make them feel heard, respected, and accepted. Quiet confidence allows you to celebrate the achievements of others without feeling threatened by them. It allows you to apologize when you're wrong without feeling weak. It allows you to encourage others because you no longer see their success as competition. Authentic confidence creates connection rather than comparison. As you continue building confidence, ask yourself a simple question. Am I trying to impress people, or am I trying to become the best version of myself? The answer will shape your actions. Remember, confidence isn't measured by how loudly you speak or how much attention you receive. It's measured by how consistently you live according to your values, even when no one is watching. The strongest people are rarely the ones demanding the spotlight. They are the ones quietly keeping their promises, treating others with kindness, making courageous decisions, and standing firm in their principles. When your confidence comes from knowing who you are rather than proving yourself to everyone else, something extraordinary happens. You stop chasing approval. You stop pretending to be someone you're not. You begin living with quiet strength, steady purpose, and authentic peace. And that kind of confidence is one of the most powerful qualities any person can possess. Chapter 9. Your greatest potential awakens when you live with purpose. Imagine setting sail across a vast ocean without a destination. You may have a strong boat, favorable winds, and enough supplies to keep moving, but without a clear direction, every wave carries you somewhere different. Days turn into weeks, and despite all your effort, you realize you've been drifting instead of truly traveling. Many people live exactly this way. They stay busy, work hard, and fill their schedules with endless responsibilities. Yet deep inside, they feel as though something is missing. They mistake activity for progress and achievement for fulfillment. They chase promotions, possessions, or praise, hoping that the next milestone will finally make them feel complete. Sometimes it does for a moment. But the feeling fades because success without purpose rarely satisfies the human heart. Purpose gives your confidence a destination. Confidence alone can help you climb a ladder. Purpose helps you make sure the ladder is leaning against the right wall. As you've journeyed through this audiobook, you've learned to recognize your inner critic, heal old wounds, take courageous action, rewrite limiting beliefs, build self-discipline, embrace discomfort, stop comparing yourself to others, and develop quiet, authentic confidence. All of these lessons prepare you for one essential question: what kind of life do you truly want to build? Purpose isn't always one grand discovery that arrives in a single moment. More often, it reveals itself gradually through your values, strengths, passions, and the ways you naturally contribute to the lives of others. Think back to moments when you felt most alive. Perhaps you were solving a difficult problem, helping someone through a challenge, creating something meaningful, teaching others, building a business, caring for your family, or learning a new skill. Those moments are often clues pointing toward your purpose. Purpose grows where your gifts meet meaningful contribution. Consider the story of a successful professional who spent years climbing the corporate ladder. From the outside, everything looked perfect. They had financial security, recognition, and a respected career. Yet each morning they woke up feeling disconnected from their work. One weekend, they volunteered to mentor young people who were preparing for their future careers. For the first time in years, they felt energized. They realized that what fulfilled them wasn't simply earning success, it was helping others discover their own potential. That realization changed everything. They didn't immediately abandon their career. Instead, they began creating opportunities to mentor, teach, and develop others alongside their professional responsibilities. Gradually, they reshaped their life around what mattered most. Their confidence became stronger because it was now connected to something deeper than personal achievement. This is the power of purpose. It gives ordinary actions extraordinary meaning. Purpose also gives you resilience during difficult seasons. When challenges arise, and they always do, people driven only by comfort often give up. But people driven by purpose find reasons to keep moving forward. They understand that temporary obstacles do not erase a meaningful mission. Think of a lighthouse standing on a rocky shore. Storms crash against it. Powerful winds shake its walls. Waves pound its foundation. Yet the lighthouse remains standing because it was built for exactly those conditions. It doesn't stop shining because the weather becomes difficult. Purpose gives your life that same stability. It becomes the light that guides your decisions when circumstances become uncertain. Of course, discovering your purpose doesn't mean you'll suddenly have every answer. Life continues to evolve, and so will you. New experiences will shape your interests. Unexpected opportunities will appear. Some dreams will change as you grow. That's perfectly natural. Purpose is less about finding one perfect destination and more about living each day in alignment with your deepest values. Ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to become? What strengths have I been given that can serve others? What work fills me with energy rather than simply draining it? What legacy do I want to leave behind? The answers may not arrive all at once, but every honest reflection brings greater clarity. Once you begin living with purpose, confidence takes on a new meaning. You no longer seek approval because you know why you're doing what you're doing. You stop chasing every opportunity because you recognize which ones truly align with your values. You become more focused, more resilient, and more peaceful because your direction is no longer determined by circumstances alone. Remember, the world doesn't need you to imitate someone else's purpose. It needs you to fully embrace your own. Your unique experiences, strengths, struggles, and lessons have prepared you to make a contribution that no one else can make in exactly the same way. The challenges you've overcome may one day become the encouragement someone else desperately needs. The wisdom you've gained through failure may become another person's roadmap to success. Never underestimate the impact of a life lived with intention. As you stand where you are today, don't wait for perfect clarity before taking your next step. Purpose often becomes clearer through action, not endless contemplation. Keep learning, keep serving, keep growing. Trust that each courageous decision is revealing another piece of the path ahead. Because your greatest potential isn't hidden inside your talents alone. It awakens when your confidence is guided by purpose, your actions reflect your values, and your life becomes about more than simply succeeding, it becomes about making a meaningful difference. And when confidence and purpose walk together, there is very little that can stop the person you are becoming. Chapter 10. The strongest people aren't those who never fall, they're the ones who always rise. Imagine watching a child learn to walk. They take one uncertain step, lose their balance, and fall. Then they try again. They stumble, wobble, and fall once more. Yet no parent looks at that child and says, "Maybe walking just isn't for you." Why? Because everyone understands that falling is part of learning. Somewhere between childhood and adulthood, we forget this simple truth. We begin treating failure as evidence that we're incapable, rather than recognizing it as an essential part of growth. We expect ourselves to succeed immediately, and when life doesn't unfold according to plan, we question our abilities, our dreams, and sometimes even our worth. But the strongest people aren't those who avoid falling. They're the ones who refuse to stay on the ground. As you've traveled through this audiobook, you've uncovered the quiet voice of self-doubt, healed old emotional wounds, taken courageous action, rewritten limiting beliefs, built discipline, embraced discomfort, stopped comparing yourself to others, discovered authentic confidence, and connected your life to purpose. Now comes the final lesson. Life will still test you. Confidence does not remove obstacles, it changes how you respond to them. There will be days when your plans fall apart, opportunities will disappear, people may misunderstand you. You'll experience setbacks you never expected and disappointments you never deserved. Those moments are unavoidable. What remains within your control is the meaning you give them. Imagine an inventor working tirelessly on a new idea. They spend months building, testing, and refining a design only to watch it fail. Most people would feel discouraged after one attempt. But instead of saying, "I failed," the inventor says, "I've discovered one more way that doesn't work." That small shift in perspective changes everything. Every unsuccessful attempt becomes information. Every obstacle becomes preparation. Every setback becomes another step toward mastery. History is filled with people who experienced repeated failure before achieving remarkable success. What separated them from everyone else wasn't extraordinary luck or endless confidence. It was persistence. They understood that failure is not the opposite of success. It is often part of the journey toward it. The same principle applies to your own life. Perhaps you'll apply for a position and receive a rejection. Maybe you'll launch a project that doesn't produce the results you hoped for. Perhaps a relationship will end, or you'll make a decision you later regret. Those experiences hurt. It's important to acknowledge that. Resilience is not pretending that disappointment doesn't exist. It's allowing yourself to feel the pain without allowing the pain to define your future. Think of a river flowing toward the ocean. When it encounters a large rock, it doesn't stop moving. It doesn't complain that the obstacle shouldn't exist. Instead, it finds another path. Sometimes it flows around the rock. Sometimes it gradually shapes the rock itself through persistence. Either way, it keeps moving. Your life can follow the same pattern. The obstacle in front of you does not have to become the end of your story. It can become the place where your greatest strength is developed. One of the most powerful habits you can build is asking better questions after a setback. Instead of asking, "Why does this always happen to me?" ask, "What is this experience teaching me?" Instead of saying, "I'm not good enough," ask, "What skill can I improve?" Instead of believing, "This is the end," remind yourself, "This is another chapter, not the entire book." These questions shift your focus from helplessness to possibility. Remember, confidence is not measured by how often you succeed. It's measured by how willing you are to begin again. Every time you stand back up after disappointment, you send yourself a powerful message. "I am stronger than this moment." That message becomes part of your identity. Eventually, you stop fearing failure because you've proven to yourself that you can survive it. You begin taking bigger risks. You pursue greater dreams. You speak with more courage. Not because you're certain everything will work out perfectly, but because you trust your ability to recover if it doesn't. That is true confidence. As this journey comes to an end, take a moment to reflect on how far you've already come. You are no longer the person who believed every fearful thought. You are no longer controlled by old wounds. You have learned that confidence is built through action, strengthened by discipline, refined through discomfort, protected from comparison, expressed through authenticity, and guided by purpose. Now, let resilience become the thread that ties all of those lessons together. There will always be another mountain to climb, another lesson to learn, and another challenge waiting just beyond your comfort zone. Don't fear that reality. Welcome it, because every challenge is another opportunity to become wiser, stronger, and more compassionate than you were before. Years from now, people may admire your achievements, but they will rarely see the countless moments when you wanted to quit and chose not to. They won't see the quiet mornings when you decided to try one more time, the difficult conversations you faced with courage, or the failures that quietly shaped your character. But you will know. You'll remember every moment you chose persistence over surrender, growth over comfort, and hope over fear. Those choices will become the foundation of the life you've built. As you close this audiobook, carry one final truth with you. You do not become extraordinary because life is easy. You become extraordinary because you continue moving forward when life is difficult. The strongest people are not those who never fall. They are the ones who rise with greater wisdom after every setback, greater courage after every fear, and greater confidence after every challenge. So wherever life leads you next, keep believing, keep learning, keep growing, keep rising. Because your greatest victories are not defined by the number of times you avoid failure, they are defined by the number of times you choose to stand back up. And as long as you continue to rise, your full potential will never stop unfolding. Reaching the end of this audiobook isn't the finish line. It's the beginning of a new chapter in your life. Throughout this journey, you've discovered that confidence isn't a gift reserved for a fortunate few. It's built through the choices you make every day. You learn to recognize the voice of self-doubt instead of obeying it. You chose healing over self-blame, action over hesitation, discipline over excuses, growth over comfort, and purpose over comparison. Most importantly, you've seen that every setback can become a stepping stone when you're willing to rise again. Now the real work begins. The world outside these pages hasn't changed, but you have. Every lesson you've heard becomes powerful only when you put it into practice. Confidence isn't built in a single moment of inspiration. It's built in the quiet decisions no one else sees. Getting back up after failure, keeping promises to yourself, speaking even when your voice shakes, and taking one more step when fear tells you to stop. There will still be difficult days. You will face uncertainty, disappointment, and moments when old doubts try to return. When they do, remember this journey. Remember that confidence has never meant having all the answers. It has always meant trusting yourself enough to keep moving forward. Never underestimate the power of small, consistent actions. A single courageous decision today can change the direction of your tomorrow. One new habit can reshape your future. One moment of belief can open a door you've been afraid to walk through for years. So don't wait for the perfect time. Don't wait until you feel fearless. Begin with the person you are today, using the strengths you already possess, and continue growing into the person you're meant to become. Your story is still being written. Your potential is still unfolding. Your best days are not behind you. They are waiting for the confident, resilient, and authentic person you are becoming. Keep believing, keep learning, keep rising, and never forget that the greatest investment you will ever make is believing in yourself.